What happens when a split-second decision to humiliate your ex turns into the most dangerous kiss of your life? When Ava Carter grabbed a stranger at a Milan gallery to make her cheating boyfriend jealous, she had no idea the man she'd chosen was Marco DeLuca, a name that makes powerful people nervous. That impulsive kiss didn't just change her night, it changed everything. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this tale travels. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. The champagne tasted expensive. Everything at the Galleria Rossini tasted expensive. The canapes, the conversation, even the air felt like it cost more to breathe. Ava Carter stood near a marble column, holding her glass like a shield, watching Alessandro laugh at something the blonde said. The blonde's hand rested on his arm. His arm. The same arm that had been around Ava's waist 3 hours ago when they'd walked into this gallery together. "You okay?" Her friend Simone appeared at her elbow, concern creasing her forehead. "Fine." Ava took a drink. The champagne didn't taste expensive anymore. It tasted bitter. "He's an ass." "I know. You should leave." "I will." But Ava didn't move. She couldn't. Not yet. Not while that blonde kept touching him, kept laughing at his jokes like they were actually funny, like he was actually worth her time. Alessandro Marchetti. 6 months of her life. 6 months of carefully planned dates and expensive dinners and that penthouse apartment overlooking the Duomo. 6 months of feeling like maybe, finally, she'd found someone who saw her as more than just the American girl trying to make it in Milan's cutthroat design world. Turned out he saw her exactly that way. Just another accessory. Easily replaced. The blonde leaned closer. Alessandro's hand moved to the small of her back. "Ava." Simone's voice had an edge now. "Seriously, let's go. Don't give him the satisfaction." But satisfaction was exactly what Ava wanted to deny him. He'd brought her here to parade her around, to show off his American girlfriend to Milan's elite at the most exclusive art opening of the season. Then he'd spotted Chiara, because of course the blonde had a name like Chiara, and suddenly Ava became invisible. She wasn't going to be invisible. "I need to do something first." Ava set down her glass. "Careful got you nowhere except watching your boyfriend flirt with someone else at a party you'd spent 2 hours getting ready for. She needed a man. Any man. Someone tall enough, handsome enough, present enough to make Alessandro look twice. To make him feel even a fraction of what she felt right now." Her eyes scanned the crowd. Too old. Too short. Too drunk. Too... And then she saw him. He stood near the back wall, partially obscured by a Morandi piece, talking to a man in an expensive suit. Not talking, actually. Listening. There was a difference. The other man gestured animatedly while this man simply watched, his posture relaxed but somehow coiled, like a cat pretending to nap. Tall, dark hair, sharp jaw, black suit that probably cost more than her rent. He looked like he belonged in this room but didn't care that he did. Perfect. Ava changed direction, cutting across the gallery floor. Simone called her name, but she ignored it. She had maybe 30 seconds before her courage evaporated completely. 20 seconds. She could see him more clearly now. Older than Alessandro, maybe mid-30s. A scar, faint but visible, cutting through his left eyebrow. Eyes that looked black from this distance, but were probably just very dark brown. 10 seconds. His companion said something. The man's mouth curved. Not quite a smile, but close. It made him look less severe, more human. 5 seconds. Ava reached him, put her hand on his chest, felt expensive fabric and muscle underneath. He turned, looked down at her. No surprise in his expression, just attention, sudden and complete, like a spotlight swinging her direction. "I'm sorry," Ava heard herself say, "but I really need you to kiss me right now." For a moment, nothing happened. His eyes, definitely dark brown, almost black, held hers. The man he'd been talking to had gone silent. The nearest conversations had faltered. "Please," Ava added, because apparently her brain had decided humiliation was the theme of the evening. Still, he didn't move. Just studied her face like she was one of the paintings on the wall, looking for brushstrokes, searching for the artist's intent. Then his hand came up, fingers curling around the back of her neck, warm and sure, and he said, "All right." One word. That was all the warning she got. He kissed her. Not tentative, not questioning. He kissed her like it was the most natural thing in the world, like she hadn't just accosted a complete stranger at an art gallery. His mouth was warm and tasted faintly of whiskey and something else, something darker. His other hand found her waist, pulled her closer. Ava's brain short-circuited. She'd expected a peck, maybe a brief press of lips, something performative and quick. This was not that. This was thorough, deliberate. The kind of kiss that made you forget where you were, who you were, why you'd thought this was a good idea in the first place. Her hands found his shoulders, solid, real, and she kissed him back because what else could she do? Somewhere behind her she heard a glass shatter. The sound broke through. Ava pulled back, or tried to, but his hand was still on her neck, his thumb now resting against her pulse point. She could feel her heartbeat against his skin. "Better?" he asked. His voice was low, measured, with an accent she couldn't place. Not quite Italian, not quite anything. Yes. Thank you." Ava stepped back. His hands fell away immediately. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have—" "You needed to make someone jealous." Not a question, a statement. Heat flooded her face. "That obvious? You kept looking over your left shoulder." He nodded toward something behind her. "And you chose me because I was standing alone. And tall," Ava blurted, then wanted to die. "I mean, you're tall. That was part of it." Something flickered in his expression. Amusement, maybe, or pity. Hard to tell. "Did it work?" he asked. Ava finally let herself look. Alessandro stood 10 feet away, his face red, Chiara forgotten beside him. Their eyes met across the gallery floor. "Yeah," Ava said quietly. "It worked." "Good." She turned back to the stranger, ready to apologize again, to explain, to do something to salvage this catastrophe of a decision. But people were staring, not just Alessandro, everyone. The entire gallery had gone quiet, all eyes turned their direction. Conversations had stopped mid-sentence. Someone's phone was out, camera pointed their way. "Why is everyone—" Ava started. "You should go," the man said. Not unkind, but firm, final. "Right, yes, of course." She took another step back. "Thank you, again, for—" She gestured vaguely at the space between them. "That?" He inclined his head, the barest acknowledgement. Ava turned and walked toward the exit, feeling hundreds of eyes tracking her movement. Simone appeared beside her, grabbing her arm. "Are you insane?" her friend hissed. "Do you have any idea who that was?" A stranger with good reflexes? "Ava." Simone's grip tightened. That was Marco De Luca. The name meant nothing. Ava shook her head. Simone stared at her like she'd grown a second head. "Marco De Luca. De Luca Enterprises. Construction, shipping, half the commercial real estate in northern Italy? So he's rich. This is Milan. Everyone here is rich. He's not rich. Simone lowered her voice. "There are rumors about his business, about how he operates. People don't cross him, Ava. They don't even look at him wrong." Ava glanced back. Marco De Luca had returned to his conversation like nothing had happened. The gallery was slowly coming back to life around him. "Well," she said, "I didn't look at him wrong. I kissed him, so I think we're fine." Simone made a strangled sound. They pushed through the gallery doors into the cool Milan night. The street was quiet, expensive cars lining the curb, a few smokers clustered near the corner. Ava's hands were shaking. She shoved them in her coat pockets. "That was stupid," she said. "Monumentally." Alessandro's face, though, was pretty satisfying, Simone admitted. "Still stupid." "Yeah." They walked in silence for a block. Ava's heels clicked against the cobblestones. Her lips still tingled. She couldn't decide if that was pathetic or just accurate reporting. "What did it feel like?" Simone asked. "What?" "Kissing Marco De Luca." Ava thought about it, about the warmth of his hand on her neck, the way he'd taken control of the moment without making her feel powerless. The taste of whiskey and something darker. "Dangerous," she said finally. Simone laughed. It sounded only slightly hysterical. They reached the metro station. Simone hugged her goodbye, made her promise to text when she got home, then disappeared down the stairs. Ava stood on the sidewalk, watching taxis cruise past, trying to decide if she wanted to walk or ride. Her phone buzzed. Text from Alessandro. "We need to talk." She deleted it without responding. Another buzz. "Simone, you're trending on Insta Milano. Don't look." Ava looked. The photo was already everywhere. Her and Marco, his hand on her neck, caught in the middle of that kiss. The caption varied by account, but the theme was consistent. Who is she? Great. Perfect. Exactly what she needed. Ava shoved her phone back in her pocket and started walking. Her apartment was 40 minutes on foot, but she needed the time. Needed to clear her head. Needed to process what she'd just done. She'd kissed a stranger. Not just any stranger. Apparently someone important enough to make an entire gallery go silent. Someone dangerous enough that Simone had looked genuinely scared. And it had felt good. Not just the kiss itself, though that had been... She shut down that thought, the whole thing. The recklessness. The impulse. The way he'd just gone with it. No questions, no hesitation. Like chaos didn't bother him at all. Ava's phone rang. Not a text this time. An actual call. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but it was late and she was keyed up and making good decisions clearly wasn't her strong suit tonight. Hello? Silence. Then, "Ms. Carter." She stopped walking. That voice. Low and measured. Familiar. "How did you get my number?" "That's not important." Marco DeLuca sounded exactly the same as he had in the gallery. Calm. Unhurried. "Are you safe?" "Am I what?" "Are you safe?" he repeated. "Are you alone?" Ava looked around. The street was empty except for a couple walking their dog half a block down. "Yes. Why?" "Your ex-boyfriend left the gallery 15 minutes ago. He was angry." "Alessandro's harmless." "Probably," Marco agreed. "But angry men make poor decisions. I wanted to make sure you got home safely." Something warm and uncomfortable settled in Ava's chest. "You didn't have to do that." "I know." Silence stretched between them. Ava started walking again, the phone pressed to her ear. "I'm sorry," she said. "About tonight. About putting you in that position." "Don't be," he paused. "It was the most interesting thing that happened to me all week." Ava laughed. She couldn't help it. "Your life must be boring. You have no idea." More silence. Comfortable this time. Ava turned onto her street, could see her building up ahead. "I'm home," she said. "Well, almost 30 seconds. "Good." Sounded satisfied. "Miss Carter?" "Yeah?" "The man you were with. Alessandro." Marco's voice hardened slightly. "He's not worth your time." "I'm starting to realize that." "Good," he said again. Then, "Sleep well." The line went dead. Ava stood outside her building, staring at her phone. Marco DeLuca had called her, had checked to make sure she got home safely, had told her Alessandro wasn't worth it. She should feel unsettled, concerned even. This was weird, right? This was definitely weird. But all she felt was that warm, uncomfortable thing in her chest getting warmer. She went inside. The office was chaos on Monday morning. Ava pushed through the doors of Carter Design Studio, her studio, though some days it felt more like a very expensive mistake, and immediately got hit with the energy of 5 people talking at once. "There she is!" Marcus, her senior designer, stood up from his desk. "Our viral sensation." "Don't," Ava warned. "Too late. You broke Insta Milano. Do you know how hard that is? They post every sneeze in this city." "I'm aware." Her junior designer, Elisa, spun around in her chair. "Was he a good kisser?" "We're not discussing this." "That means yes," Simone called from her desk in the corner. Because of course Simone worked here too. Small mercies. Ava dumped her bag on her desk and fired up her computer. "We have the Moretti presentation on Friday. Can we maybe focus on that instead of my personal life?" "The Moretti presentation is done," Marcus said. "We finished it Thursday, remember? You were there." "Oh, right, she had been." "Then what are you all doing?" "Waiting for you to tell us about Marco DeLuca." Ava's computer screen came to life. 47 new emails since Friday night. She started scrolling through them, deleting the junk, flagging the important ones. Nothing to tell, she said. I kissed him. He was nice about it. End of story. He called you, Simone pointed out. Marcus sat up straighter. He called you? To make sure I got home safe. It was nothing. Marco DeLuca doesn't do nothing, Elisa said. My cousin works in finance. She says DeLuca Enterprises is untouchable. They move money around like it's air. Sounds legal and not concerning at all, Ava muttered, still scrolling. She stopped. One email sent at 6:47 that morning. Subject line, Design Consultation Request. Sender, L. Marchese, DeLuca Enterprises. Ava's stomach did something complicated. Oh no, Simone said. She'd gotten very good at reading Ava's expressions over the years. What? Nothing. Ava clicked the email open. Probably nothing. Ms. Carter, DeLuca Enterprises, is seeking an interior designer for a commercial renovation project in the city center. Your portfolio came highly recommended. Would you be available for an initial consultation this week? Please contact my office at your earliest convenience. Best regards, Laura Marchese, Executive Assistant to Marco DeLuca. Definitely nothing, Ava repeated, but her voice sounded weird. Thin. Marcus appeared behind her shoulder. He was good at that, being exactly where you didn't want him. Holy shit, he breathed. He's offering you a job. It's not from him. It's from his assistant. Because that's so much better. Ava reread the email. Your portfolio came highly recommended. That was code, right? That had to be code. Her portfolio was good, but it wasn't tracked down the girl who kissed you at a party. Good. You have to take it, Elisa said. I don't have to do anything. It's DeLuca Enterprises. Do you know how many designers would kill for this? Then let them have it. Ava. Simone's voice cut through the others. She'd moved closer, her expression serious. You need this. That stopped everyone. Because it was true. Carter Design Studio was bleeding money. Had been for months. The Moretti presentation was their last real lead, and even that was a long shot. Ava had maybe 3 months of operating costs left before she'd have to make some very hard decisions about layoffs. We're closing completely. It could be legitimate, Marcus offered. Maybe he really does need a designer. Right after I kissed him at a party. Coincidences happen. Not to me, they don't. Ava closed the email, opened it again. The cursor blinked in the reply field. This was a bad idea. Everything about this screamed bad idea. You didn't get involved with men like Marco DeLuca, men who made galleries go silent, men who called to make sure you got home safe, men who had scars through their eyebrows and hands that knew exactly where to touch. Her business was failing, her team needed work, and she was too proud to ask her parents for help again. She started typing. Miss Marchese, thank you for reaching out. I would be happy to discuss the project. I'm available Wednesday afternoon if that works for Mr. DeLuca's schedule. Best, Ava Carter. She hit send before she could change her mind. There, she said. Done. Happy? Her team exchanged glances. Thrilled, Simone said dryly. This won't complicate your life at all. The elevator doors opened onto a reception area that made her studio look like a storage closet. Floor-to-ceiling windows, original art, furniture that cost more than her car. A woman stood as Ava approached. 50s, perfectly composed, radiating competent efficiency. Ms. Carter, Laura Marchese, thank you for coming. Her handshake was firm. Mr. DeLuca is finishing a call. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? I'm fine, thank you. Please, have a seat. Ava sat on a sofa that probably cost more than her rent. Tried not to fidget. Tried not to think about the fact that in approximately 30 seconds she was going to see Marco DeLuca again and would have to pretend kissing him had been a totally normal professional decision. Ms. Carter, Laura reappeared. Mr. DeLuca will see you now. The office was corner-positioned, windows on 2 sides, Milan spread out below like a photograph. Marco sat behind a desk that looked hand-carved, talking on the phone in rapid Italian. He held up one finger, wait, and gestured to the chair across from him. Ava sat. This was different from the gallery. There, he'd been partially hidden, standing in shadow. Here, in full light, she could see him clearly, the sharp lines of his face, the way his suit fit like it had been made for him, which it probably had, the scar through his eyebrow that somehow made him more attractive instead of less. That's not ominous at all. He did smile then, briefly. I acquired a building in the Brera district, 6 floors, currently empty. I want to convert it into mixed-use space, retail on the ground level, offices above. And you need an interior designer. I need someone with vision, someone who understands how to make a space feel alive. He paused. Your work with the Galleria Rossini renovation was impressive. Ava blinked. That was 3 years ago. I know. How do you... She stopped. Stupid question. Men like Marco De Luca knew everything. You've been researching me. Yes. At least he was honest. Why? Because you kissed me at a party, and I wanted to know who you were. Heat climbed up her neck. So this job is real, he cut in. I genuinely need a designer. The project timeline is aggressive. 6 months from concept to completion. The budget is substantial, and I'm willing to pay well for the right person. But you chose me because you're talented, because your portfolio shows range, and because... He stopped, reconsidered. Because I think you do good work. You think? I know. Ava studied him, trying to find the catch, the angle. There was always an angle. What's the budget? She asked. He named a figure. She managed not to choke. Barely. That was more than her studio made in a year, maybe 2 years. That's generous. It's fair. It's insane. Do you want the job or not, Miss Carter? Did she? This was a bad idea. Everything about this was a bad idea. Marco De Luca was dangerous, Simone had said. People didn't cross him. But he was offering her a lifeline, offering her a way to save her business, to keep her team employed, to prove that Carter Design Studio was more than just a privileged American girl playing at having a career. I want to see the building first, she said. He stood. Let's go. What, now? Do you have other appointments? No, but then now works. He grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. Unless you'd prefer to schedule something later. Ava stood. Now is fine. They took his car, a black sedan with a driver who appeared the moment they stepped outside. Marco held the door for her, waited until she was settled, then slid in beside her. The car pulled into traffic. Ava watched Milan blur past the window, hyper-aware of Marco sitting 18 inches away. He smelled good. Subtle cologne, expensive soap, something that made her want to lean closer. She didn't lean closer. How long have you been in Milan, he asked. 4 years. You like it? Most days. But not all days. She glanced at him. Does anyone like any city all days? No. He looked out the window. But some cities are harder than others. Milan's been good to me. Mostly. The columns, the exposed brick. Don't try to make it something it's not. Show me. So she did. Ava walked him through her vision, pointing out details, sketching possibilities with her hands. She got lost in it, the way she always did when a space spoke to her. Forgot to be nervous. Forgot about the kiss. Forgot about everything except the work. When she finally stopped talking, she was out of breath. Marco was watching her with something in his expression she couldn't name. What? She asked. Take the job. I haven't said yes yet. You will. He moved closer, not threatening, just present. Because this is what you do. You see what things could be, and you make them real. You don't know that. I do. He was very close now, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. Take the job, Ava. Hearing her first name in his voice did something to her pulse. This is a bad idea, she said. Probably. We kissed 3 days ago. I remember. And now you want to hire me. Yes? People will talk. People always talk. He held her gaze. Do you want to save your business? The question was too direct, too knowing. She should be offended that he knew her studio was struggling. Instead, she just felt tired. Yes, she admitted. Then take the job. Bring your team. Make this building everything it could be. He paused. Let me help you. Why? The question came out barely louder than a whisper. Why do you care? Because you kissed me at a party and didn't apologize until after. The corner of his mouth lifted. Because you see buildings the way I do, like they matter. His expression shifted, became serious. And because I think you deserve better than watching your business fail while your ex-boyfriend moves on with someone new. That stung, but he wasn't wrong. Ava took a breath, let it out slowly. If I take this job, she said, it stays professional. No, she gestured between them. No complications? Agreed. I mean it. So do I. And if you change your mind, I walk. No questions, no penalties. Deal. She studied him, looking for the lie, the catch. But his expression remained open, honest. Okay, she said. I'll do it. Marco smiled, a real smile this time. It changed his whole face. Good. He extended his hand. Welcome to the project, Miss Carter. She shook it. His grip was warm and firm and sent electricity up her arm. Call me Ava, she said. Ava. The way he said her name felt intimate, like a secret. You can call me Marco. She nodded, tried to pull her hand back. He held on for just a second longer, then let go. They stood in the empty building, afternoon light slanting through the dusty windows, Milan humming outside. Ava felt the weight of her decision settling over her shoulders. This was either the smartest thing she'd ever done or the biggest mistake. Hard to tell which. I'll have contracts drawn up, Marco said. Laura will send them over tomorrow. Okay. And Ava? He waited until she looked at him. Thank you. For saying yes. Thank you for asking. They walked back to the car together. The driver appeared like magic, holding the door. Ava slid into the back seat. Marco followed. The drive back was quieter, comfortable. Ava watched the city pass, her mind already racing ahead. She'd need to bring Marcus in immediately, and Elisa would be perfect for the retail concepts. They could do this. They could make something extraordinary. The car stopped outside her studio. Marco walked her to the door. I'll see you Monday, he said. First project meeting. Monday works. He nodded, started to turn away, then stopped. Ava? Yeah? That night at the gallery, when you kissed me. He met her eyes. Best impulse decision I've seen in years. Then he was gone, sliding back into the car, disappearing into Milan traffic. Ava stood on the sidewalk, her heart doing strange things in her chest. She was in so much trouble. The studio erupted the moment she walked through the door. Well? Marcus didn't even let her set down her bag. Did you take it? Ava looked at her team. Simone had stopped pretending to work. Elisa had abandoned all subtlety and was just staring. Even Paolo, their normally oblivious junior architect, had looked up from his screen. I took it, she said. The cheering was immediate and possibly excessive. Marcus picked her up and spun her around, which she tolerated for exactly 3 seconds before threatening his life. Elisa was already pulling up the project management software. Simone just smiled, relief written all over her face. Tell us everything, Marcus demanded. So she did. The building, the timeline, the budget. She left out the part where Marco had said her name like it meant something, left out the way he'd looked at her in that empty space, like he saw past all her carefully maintained walls. 6 months is aggressive, Simone said. She'd switched into project manager mode, which meant frowning at her tablet. Concept to completion for 6 floors? We can do it. Ava grabbed a marker, moved to the whiteboard. We split into teams. Marcus, you take the retail floor with Elisa. Simone and Paolo handle the office spaces. I'll manage overall design cohesion and client relations. Client relations? Marcus grinned. Is that what we're calling it? Shut up. I'm just saying the man looks at you like... Marcus. Like you're the last cannoli in the shop and I will fire you. No, you won't. I'm too pretty. Ava threw the marker at him. He caught it, still grinning. They spent the rest of the afternoon planning, breaking down the project into manageable pieces, arguing over concepts, drinking too much coffee. It felt good, purposeful, Like maybe Carter Design Studio wasn't circling the drain after all. Ava's phone buzzed around 6. Unknown number, but she knew before she even looked. "I need to take this," she said, stepping into her private office. She answered. "Hello? The contracts are ready?" Marco's voice, low and matter-of-fact. "Laura will messenger them over within the hour." That was fast. "I don't like waiting. I'm starting to notice that too." Pause. Then, "How's your team?" "Excited. Terrified. The usual." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." Ava sat on the edge of her desk. Through the glass wall, she could see her team still huddled around the whiteboard. "Is that your management philosophy?" "One of them." "What are the others?" "Pay well. Expect excellence. Don't waste people's time." "Sounds lonely." "It is." He said it simply, like it was just a fact. But effective. She should hang up. There was no reason for this conversation to continue. The contracts were coming. They'd established the professional boundaries. Done. "Can I ask you something?" The question came out before she could stop it. "You seem to be making a habit of that." "Why me? Really, you could have any design firm in Milan." Silence. Long enough that she thought maybe he'd hung up. Then, "Because when you walked through that building today, you saw what it could be. Not what it is, not what it was, what it could be." Another pause. "That's rare." "It's literally my job." "No, your job is to make spaces look good. What you do is different. You make them matter." Ava's throat felt tight. "You barely know me. I'm a good judge of character. Or a terrible one. You let a stranger kiss you at a party. That stranger turned out to be talented, professional, and exactly what I needed for this project." His voice shifted, got quieter. "So, maybe my judgment isn't that bad." Heat crawled up her neck. This was not professional. This conversation had veered way past professional about 3 sentences ago. "I should go," she said. "My team's waiting." "Of course. I'll see you Monday." "Monday," she agreed, and hung up before she could say something stupid. Through the glass, Marcus was watching her with knowing eyes. She flipped him off. He blew her a kiss. The contracts arrived 45 minutes later. Ava read them twice, then had Simone read them, then called her lawyer just to be safe. Everything was exactly as Marco had promised. Standard terms. Generous payment schedule. No hidden clauses. She signed them Friday morning and messaged Laura Marchese confirmation. Spent the weekend sketching concepts, drinking wine, and trying not to think about dark eyes and the way her name sounded in Marco's voice. Monday morning arrived cold and bright. Ava dressed carefully. Black pants, cream blouse, hair pulled back. Professional. Capable. Not at all affected by the man she was about to see again. The first project meeting was scheduled for 10. DeLuca Enterprises, Conference Room B. Ava arrived 15 minutes early with her portfolio, her tablet, and Marcus, who'd insisted on coming for moral support. "You're nervous," he observed in the elevator. "I'm not nervous. Your left eye is twitching. That's allergies." "To what? Success?" "To you. I'm allergic to you." The elevator doors opened. Laura Marchese was waiting, professional smile in place. "Ms. Carter, welcome. Mr. Rossi." She nodded to Marcus. "Conference room is this way." The room was all glass and clean lines, a table that could seat 20, windows overlooking the city, and Marco standing at the head of the table talking to a man in a suit. He looked up when they entered. His gaze found hers, held it for a beat longer than necessary. "Ava." "Marcus." "Thank you for coming." He gestured to the other man. "This is Antonio Russo, my project manager. He'll be your main point of contact for logistics." Antonio was 50s, competent-looking, with the handshake of someone who'd built things with his actual hands. "Pleasure," he said. "I've reviewed your initial concepts. Impressive work." They settled around the table. Laura appeared with coffee. Marco took the head position, Antonio to his right, Ava to his left. Marcus sat beside her, already pulling up reference images on his tablet. "Before we begin," Marco said, "ground rules. This is a collaborative process. If you see a problem, speak up. If you have a better idea, I want to hear it. What I don't want is politeness that wastes time." He looked at Ava. Agreed? Agreed. Good. Show us what you're thinking. So she did. Ava walked them through her vision for the space. Ground floor retail that felt curated, intimate. Upper floors that balanced industrial heritage with modern functionality. She talked about light, flow, the importance of preserving the building's character while making it viable for contemporary use. Marco listened without interrupting. So did Antonio. Marcus jumped in occasionally with technical details. Laura took notes. When Ava finished, the room was quiet. "Well?" she asked. Marco leaned back in his chair. "It's better than I expected." "I'll take that as a compliment." "You should." He looked at Antonio. "Timeline? Aggressive but doable. We'd need to start demolition by the end of the month. Make it happen." Just like that. No debate, no committee review. Ava was used to clients who needed 3 meetings just to pick paint colors. Marco made decisions like breathing. They spent the next 2 hours going through details. Budget allocation, material sourcing, contractor selection. Antonio proved to be exactly the kind of project manager Ava loved. Detail-oriented, practical, willing to say no when something wouldn't work. Marco mostly listened, but when he spoke, people paid attention. He had a way of cutting through bullshit, of finding the core issue in any problem. It was impressive and slightly terrifying. "Lunch," he announced at 12:30. "Antonio, can you give us the room?" Antonio gathered his things and left. Laura followed. Marcus looked between Ava and Marco, then stood. I'll just... He gestured vaguely at the door. "Marcus," Ava said. "Nope. You're good. Very good. Totally professional." He was already backing toward the exit. "Text me if you need bail money." Then he was gone. Ava turned to Marco. "That was subtle." "He's protective of you. He thinks you're going to eat me alive." "Am I?" "I don't know yet." Marco's mouth curved. He stood, moved to the windows. "Come here." It wasn't a request. Ava got up anyway, joined him at the glass. Milan spread out below them, all terracotta roofs and medieval spires mixing with steel and glass. "What do you see?" he asked. She looked, really looked. History, money, ambition, people trying to make their mark. "Do you like it?" "Most days." "But not all days," he said, echoing their conversation from last week. "Some days it feels like everyone here knows something I don't. Like there's a secret handshake and I missed the memo. You're American. That obvious? You apologize too much. Italians don't apologize. We justify." Ava laughed. "Is that what you do?" "I don't do either." He turned to face her. "I make decisions and live with the consequences." They were standing close enough that she could see the scar through his eyebrow in detail. A clean line, precise, not from an accident. "How did you get that?" She gestured at his face. Marco touched it absently. "A disagreement. Long time ago." "About what?" "Money. It's usually about money. Or love." "No." His voice was firm. "Love makes people stupid. Money makes them predictable. That's cynical. That's experience." Ava studied him, the sharp lines of his face, the way he held himself, controlled even in stillness. There were layers here, complications, things Simone had warned her about. "What do people say about you?" she asked. "Many things, most of them untrue. But some of them true." "Some," he acknowledged. "Which ones?" He considered her for a long moment. "The ones about being dangerous." It should have scared her. It didn't. "Are you?" she asked. "Dangerous?" "To my enemies, yes. And to people who work for you?" "That depends." "Do you plan to betray me?" "No." "Then you're safe." But the way he was looking at her didn't feel safe. It felt like standing on the edge of something high and unstable. "We should eat," Marco said. "There's a place nearby. You'll like it." The restaurant was small and tucked away, the kind of place locals went to avoid tourists. The owner greeted Marco like family, showed them to a corner table, brought wine without asking. "You come here often," Ava observed. "It's quiet. You like quiet." "I like being able to think." The food arrived. Simple pasta, perfect bread, olive oil that tasted like sunshine. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. "Tell me about New York," Marco said eventually. Ava looked up. "How did you—" "You mentioned a disaster in New York." Right, she had. "It was nothing." "Try again." She set down her fork. "I worked for a firm there. Good firm, respected. I was junior but ambitious. There was a partner, older, married. He made promises about promotions, about making me senior designer. Let me guess. The promises required certain favors. I was stupid enough to believe him, smart enough to say no. He didn't take it well. He fired you. Worse, he made sure no one else would hire me, told people I was difficult, unprofessional, that I'd stolen designs." She picked up her wine. "So I left, came to Milan, started over." Marco's expression had gone cold. "His name? Why?" "Because men like that don't stop. They keep doing it until someone makes them stop." "It was 4 years ago." "That's not an answer." Ava met his eyes, saw something flat and dangerous there. "I handled it. I'm here. I built something. That's enough." He didn't look convinced, but he let it go. They finished eating. Marco paid over Ava's protests. "It's a business lunch," he said. "I'm expensing it." "That's not how business lunches work." "It's how mine work." They walked back to his building slowly. The afternoon was mild, the streets busy with foot traffic. Ava felt full and slightly wine-drunk and more relaxed than she'd been in weeks. "Thank you," she said. "For lunch. For the project. For—" she gestured vaguely. "All of it. You earned it. I kissed you at a party. You took a risk. I respect that." They'd reached the building entrance. Marco's driver was waiting at the curb. "I'll have Antonio send over the demolition schedule," Marco said. "We'll meet again next week to review progress." "Sounds good." He hesitated. It was brief, barely noticeable, but Ava caught it. Like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. "Ava." His phone rang. He glanced at it, frowned. "I need to take this," he said. "Of course." He answered in Italian, his voice immediately sharper. Ava caught a few words: problem, delay, unacceptable. His expression had shifted from open to closed in seconds. She gave him a small wave and headed toward the metro. Behind her, she could hear his voice, controlled but edged with steel. Whatever the call was about, someone was getting their ass handed to them. The week spun up fast. Demolition permits, contractor meetings, material samples spreading across every surface in the studio. Ava lived on coffee and worked 12-hour days and loved every minute of it. Marco was copied on all the emails but rarely responded. Antonio handled most communication. Ava told herself she wasn't disappointed. This was better, professional, exactly what she'd asked for. Thursday afternoon, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But it was 3 o'clock and she needed a break, and maybe it was a contractor with good news for once. "This is Ava." "You sound tired." Marco's voice. Ava sat up straighter, like he could see her slouching. "Long week. How's the project?" "On schedule. Antonio's been great." "Good. He's the best I have." Silence. Ava waited. "There's an event tonight," Marco said. "Fundraiser for the Arts Council. I need to make an appearance." "Okay. I'd like you to come with me." Her brain stuttered. "As what?" "As my date." "I thought we were keeping this professional." "We are. Professionally, it would be useful for you to network, meet potential clients, be seen at these kinds of events." "So it's a business thing?" "Yes." "Then why did you say date?" Another pause. Then quietly. "Because I want you there." Ava's heart did something complicated. "Marco, it's just an event, Ava. A few hours. You wear something nice, we make small talk, we leave. No complications." She should say no. Every functioning brain cell she had was screaming no. "What time?" she asked. 7. I'll pick you up." "You don't know where I live." "Via Tortona, number 47, 3rd floor." "That's not creepy at all." "I'm thorough." "You're invasive." "I'm interested." He said it plainly, like it was just a fact. 7 o'clock. Wear something you feel powerful in. He hung up before she could change her mind. Ava sat at her desk, staring at her phone. Across the room, Marcus was watching her with knowing eyes. Don't, she warned. I didn't say anything. You're thinking it very loudly. I'm just thinking you should wear the blue dress, the one from last year's design awards. This is a business thing. Sure it is. He said networking. Uh-huh. It's professional. Marcus grinned. Keep telling yourself that, boss. At 6:30, Ava stood in front of her closet having a minor crisis. The blue dress was too much. The black one too boring. The red one too... Her doorbell rang. 30 minutes early. Of course. Ava grabbed the blue dress because Marcus was right and she hated that. Threw it on, did something with her hair that looked intentional, and answered the door. Marco stood in her hallway in a tuxedo that probably cost more than her furniture. He looked at her. Just looked. You're early, she said. Traffic was light. His gaze traveled from her face to her dress and back. You look professional? Devastating. Heat flooded her face. You said wear something powerful. I did, and you listened. He offered his arm. Ready? She grabbed her clutch, locked her door, took his arm. They walked down 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken again. Marco's car waited at the curb. The event was at the Palazzo Reale. All marble columns and Baroque ceilings and people in clothes that cost more than Ava's rent. She recognized faces from magazines, politicians, business leaders, the kind of crowd that made her simultaneously excited and nauseous. Marco's hand found the small of her back as they entered. Steady, grounding. Stay close, he murmured. Some of these people are sharks. And you're not? I'm a different kind of shark. They moved through the crowd. Marco introduced her to everyone, gallery owners, developers, city officials. He made sure people knew she was a designer, made sure they took her card. Ava networked like her life depended on it, because maybe it did. An hour in, they found themselves near the bar. Marco ordered whiskey. Ava got champagne. You're good at this, he said. At what? Reading people, knowing what they need to hear. You make it sound manipulative. It's strategic. There's a difference. Is that what you're doing? Being strategic? He looked at her. With everyone else, yes. With you? He paused. No. Then what are you doing with me? I don't know yet. He said it like it bothered him. That's unusual for me. Before Ava could respond, a voice cut through the noise. Marco, what a surprise! They turned. A man approached, maybe 40, expensive suit, smile that didn't reach his eyes. He looked at Marco like they shared history, bad history. Victor, Marco said. His voice had gone flat. I heard you acquired the Brera building. Bold move. Victor's gaze slid to Ava. And who is this? Ava Carter, my designer. Designer, Victor smiled. How delightful. I'm Victor Renault. Pleasure to meet you. He extended his hand. Ava shook it because politeness was ingrained, but something about him made her skin crawl. Renault Development, she said, placing the name. You do commercial renovation. I do everything Marco does. Victor's smile widened. Only better. Interesting. Ava kept her voice neutral. I haven't seen any of your work in Milan. Oh, I operate more discreetly than Marco. Less public. More effective. Discreet is an interesting word for what you do, Marco said quietly. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Victor's smile froze in place. You always did take things too personally, Marco. It's a weakness. And you always did talk too much. That's yours. They stared at each other. Ava felt like she was watching 2 predators size each other up before a fight. Well, Victor stepped back. Lovely meeting you, Ms. Carter. I'm sure we'll see more of each other. Milan is such a small city. He looked at Marco. Good luck with your project. You'll need it. He walked away. Marco's hand on Ava's back had tightened into a grip. Who was that? She asked. Competition. Felt like more than that. It is. Marco drained his whiskey. We should go. It's barely 9. I don't want to be here anymore. His voice had an edge she hadn't heard before. Ava looked at his face. The careful control was cracking. Whatever Victor Renault represented, It wasn't good. Okay, she said. Let's go. They made their excuses and left. The car ride back was silent. Marco stared out the window, jaw tight, miles away. You want to talk about it? Ava asked. No? Okay. More silence, then. He killed someone I cared about. Ava's breath caught. What? Victor Renault, 5 years ago. A business deal went bad. There was an accident. My brother was driving the car. Marco's voice was eerily calm. The brakes failed. Investigation ruled it mechanical failure. But I know what happened. Marco, I can't prove it. He's too careful, so we play this game. He pushes, I push back, we pretend to be civilized. I'm sorry. Don't be, just... He looked at her finally. Be careful around him. Victor has a talent for finding pressure points. If he thinks you matter to me, he'll try to use that. Do I? Matter to you? Marco held her gaze. Yes. The word hung between them. Simple and dangerous and true. The car stopped outside her building. Ava didn't move. This is a bad idea, she said. Whatever this is. I know. You're my client. You have enemies. You just told me someone might use me against you. I know, he said again. So what are we doing? Marco reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered against her cheek. I don't know, he admitted, but I can't seem to stop. Ava leaned into his hand before she could stop herself. This is going to get complicated. It already is. She should pull back, should thank him for the evening and go inside and maintain the professional boundaries they'd agreed on. Should be smart. Instead, she kissed him. Different from the gallery. No audience, no performance. Just them in the back of a car. Milan quiet outside. The taste of whiskey on his mouth. Marco made a sound low in his throat and pulled her closer, his hand sliding into her hair. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. That was, Ava started. A complication, Marco finished. Yeah. He rested his forehead against hers. I should let you go. You should. Neither of them moved. Ava. Her name sounded rough in his voice. If you stay in this car, I'm taking you home with me. Your home or mine? Mine. Yours has a broken elevator and I'm not walking 3 flights right now. She laughed. Couldn't help it. That's your concern? The stairs? I'm practical. You're insane. Probably. He pulled back enough to see her face. But I'm giving you a choice. You can go inside. We keep this professional. Or you come with me and we figure out what this is. Ava looked at him. Dark eyes and sharp edges and complications stacked on complications. This was such a bad idea. Career-ending bad. Get your heart broken bad. Take me home, she said. Marco kissed her again, then told the driver an address in a part of Milan Ava couldn't afford to look at apartments in. They drove in charged silence, his hand laced with hers, thumbs moving in slow circles against her palm. His building was modern glass and steel. His apartment was the penthouse, because of course it was. Minimalist furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows, art that was probably worth more than her studio. Ava walked to the windows. The city glittered below them, endless and beautiful. Drink? Marco asked from somewhere behind her. Sure. He brought her wine, red, rich, probably expensive. They stood side by side looking out at Milan. I meant what I said, Marco told her. About Victor. He's dangerous. So are you, apparently. Not to you. How do I know that? He turned to face her fully. You don't. You're going to have to decide if you trust me. That's a big ask. I know. Ava set down her wine. Tell me something true. Something real. Marco was quiet for a long moment. Then, when you kissed me at that gallery, it was the first time in 5 years that I felt something other than anger. The honesty of it hit her in the chest. When Alessandro cheated, she said, I wasn't even surprised. That's how bad it had gotten. I expected to be hurt. You deserve better than that. So do you. They moved at the same time. His mouth found hers, her hand slid into his hair, and everything else fell away. The complications, the warnings, the very good reasons this was a terrible idea. None of it mattered. Just this. Just them. Just the way he touched her like she was something precious and dangerous all at once. They stumbled toward his bedroom. Ava's dress hit the floor somewhere along the way. His jacket followed. By the time they reached the bed, they were both breathing hard and half undressed, and far past the point of stopping. Afterward, they lay tangled in expensive sheets, Ava's head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. "I'm still your client," she said quietly. "I know. This is still a terrible idea." "Probably." She tilted her head to look at him. "Any regrets?" Marco's hand moved through her hair, gentle and sure. "Not even one." Ava closed her eyes. Let herself have this moment. Tomorrow they'd figure out what it meant. Tonight, she was just going to feel. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, Milan glittering outside the windows like a promise neither of them could quite believe yet. Morning came with sunlight slicing through unfamiliar windows, and the realization that Ava had made a decision she couldn't unmake. She lay still for a moment, feeling the weight of Marco's arm across her waist, the steady rhythm of his breathing against her shoulder. His bedroom was as minimalist as the rest of the apartment. Clean lines, muted colors, nothing personal except a single photograph on the dresser too far away to see clearly. It felt like a hotel room, like he didn't actually live here, just existed between the walls. "You're thinking too loud," Marco murmured against her neck. "How do you know I'm thinking?" "Your breathing changed." Ava turned to face him. His hair was messy, the scar through his eyebrow more visible in the morning light. He looked younger like this, less guarded. "What time is it?" she asked. He glanced at the clock. 6:30. "I should go. My team will wonder where I am." "Will they?" "Marcus will. He's nosy." Marco's hand traced a lazy pattern on her hip. "Stay. I'll make coffee." "You make coffee?" "I'm full of surprises." She should leave, should get dressed and call a car, and pretend last night was just a momentary lapse in judgment. But his hand was warm and she was tired of doing the smart thing. "Okay," she said. "Coffee." The kitchen was all steel and granite, the kind of space designed for someone who rarely cooked. Marco moved through it with unexpected ease, pulling down cups, measuring grounds. He wore only dark boxers, and the morning light caught on old scars across his ribs. Thin white lines. Not from accidents. Ava pulled on his shirt from last night, the fabric falling to mid-thigh. She sat at the counter and watched him work. "You're staring," he said without turning around. "You have scars." "Observant." "How many fights have you been in?" "Enough to learn I don't like losing." The coffee machine hissed to life. "How do you take it?" "Black." He poured 2 cups, slid one across to her. Their fingers brushed. The contact felt electric even now, in daylight, with the complications of what they'd done settling around them like dust. "So," Ava said, "we're doing this. Apparently, your project manager is going to have opinions. Antonio works for me. His opinions are his problem. My team works for me. Their opinions are mine." Marco leaned against the counter, coffee in hand, studying her. "Are you having regrets?" "I'm having thoughts." "That's not the same thing." "No." She took a drink. The coffee was perfect, which figured. "I'm thinking this gets messy. I'm thinking your enemies become my problem. I'm thinking Marcus is going to say I told you so at least 40 times. And I'm still here drinking your coffee in your shirt." His mouth curved. "So you're saying you're reckless." "I'm saying I make questionable decisions when I care about someone." The words hung between them. Too honest, too soon, too real. Marco set down his cup and moved around the counter. He cupped her face in his hands, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "I don't know how to do this," he said quietly. "The normal version, dates and flowers and meeting friends. That's not who I am. I don't need normal." "What do you need?" Ava thought about it. About Alessandro's pretty lies. About the partner in New York who'd made promises he never intended to keep. About all the men who'd treated her like she was temporary. "Honesty," she said, "even when it's ugly. Especially when it's ugly." "I can do that." "Can you? You want ugly truth?" His eyes were dark and serious. "I haven't felt this way about anyone since my wife died. It scares me. You scare me." Because the last time I let myself care, Victor Renault took it away, and I couldn't stop him. Ava's breath caught. You were married. 8 years. She died in the same accident as my brother, the car crash I told you about. His voice stayed level, but something behind his eyes cracked. So when I say this is complicated, I mean I come with wreckage. I mean I have enemies who will hurt you just to hurt me. I mean you should probably walk out that door and forget this happened. But you don't want me to. No, I really don't. She kissed him, soft and deliberate, tasting coffee and honesty and the sharp edge of his fear. When she pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. I'm not walking out, Ava said, but I need you to tell me when things get dangerous. No secrets about the bad stuff. Agreed. And we keep the project separate. What happens here stays here. At work, we're professional. I can do professional. Can you? Because you're currently shirtless in your kitchen and I'm wearing your clothes. Marco smiled. Actually smiled, not the half curve, but something real and warm. Fair point. I'll work on it. They finished their coffee standing close, not quite touching, but not quite separate either. Ava's phone buzzed in the bedroom. Then again, and again. That's Marcus, she said. How do you know? He triple texts when he's panicking. She retrieved her phone. 7 messages, each more concerned than the last. Where are you? Seriously, where are you? If you're dead, I'm going to kill you. Wait, that doesn't make sense, Ava. I swear to God, should I call hospitals or police? Do I call police? Ava typed back. I'm fine. Stayed at a friend's. See you at the office. The response was immediate. Which friend? She didn't answer. Let him stew. Marco appeared in the doorway, dressed now in dark slacks and a white shirt, transforming back into the man who made galleries go silent. He held out her dress from last night, professionally dry-cleaned and pressed. When did you I have a service. They're very efficient. Of course you do. She dressed quickly, hyper-aware of him watching. The dynamic had shifted somehow. Last night was desperation and attraction and the momentum of bad decisions. This morning was choice, deliberate and terrifying. Marco's driver took her home. She showered and changed and made it to the studio by 9, which was practically early given the circumstances. Marcus took one look at her and grinned. You slept with him. I don't know what you're talking about. Your hair is different. You never wear your hair down on Fridays. It's not Friday, it's Thursday. Still, you have that look. What look? The I made a terrible decision and liked it look. Ava threw a pen at him. He ducked, still grinning. The day unfolded in contractor calls and material samples and the 1,000 small decisions that went into building something from nothing. Ava lost herself in the work, in the precise pleasure of making a vision real. Around 3, Antonio called with updates on demolition progress. Everything was on schedule. The building was already starting to reveal itself, layers of history peeling away to show good bones underneath. Marco wanted me to tell you he's pleased with the progress, Antonio said. He could tell me himself. He's in Rome, back tomorrow. Right. Professional boundaries. This was what she'd asked for. That night, alone in her apartment, Ava's phone rang. Unknown number that she now recognized. Rome? She answered instead of hello. Antonio has a big mouth, Marco said. How was your day? Productive? Yours? Long, boring. I spent 4 hours in a meeting about permits. Sounds thrilling. It was excruciating. He paused. I kept thinking about this morning. Heat crawled up her neck. Did you? About you and my shirt, about the way you look when you're thinking too hard. Marco, you said honesty. I'm being honest. You're being dangerous. Same thing with us, apparently. Ava lay back on her couch, phone pressed to her ear, smiling despite herself. When are you back? Tomorrow afternoon. Have dinner with me. Is that a question or an instruction? It's a request. I'm trying to do the normal thing. You're doing terribly at it. I know. So will you? Have dinner with me? Yes. Good. She could hear the satisfaction in his voice. I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something comfortable. Comfortable how? Jeans comfortable or little black dress comfortable? Jeans. We're not going anywhere fancy. That surprised her. Really? Really, I want to take you somewhere that matters to me. Not some restaurant where we perform for other people. Something warm settled in her chest. Okay, 7 tomorrow. Ava? Yeah? I'm glad you stayed this morning. She closed her eyes. Me too. Friday crawled by. The demolition crew found original tile work under 3 layers of false ceiling in the Brera building. Elisa nearly cried over the discovery. Ava took photos, sent them to Antonio, who sent them to Marco, who called her directly despite their professional boundaries agreement. This is incredible, he said without preamble. I know, we're thinking of preserving it, making it a feature in the main retail space. Do it, whatever it costs. It's going to cost a lot. I don't care. That's history. That's what makes the building matter. Ava smiled. See, this is why I like working with you. Most clients would see dollar signs. Most clients are idiots. He paused. I'm still picking you up at 7. I remember. Just making sure you don't bail. I don't bail. Good. See you tonight. He hung up before she could respond. Ava stared at her phone, that warm feeling spreading. Marcus appeared at her elbow. You're smiling at your phone. That's middle school behavior. I'm happy. Is that illegal? It's suspicious. You're never happy on Fridays. Fridays are for existential dread and accounting. Maybe I'm turning over a new leaf. Or sleeping with a dangerous man who makes you forget you're supposed to be stressed. That too. Marcus studied her. His expression shifted from amused to concerned. You're serious about him? I don't know yet. Maybe. Ava. He pulled up a chair, sat down. I love you. You know that. I do. So I'm saying this because I love you. Be careful. Marco DeLuca isn't some guy you met at a coffee shop. Marcus searched for words. He's powerful. He's connected. And according to literally everyone in Milan, he's not someone you cross. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're getting in deep very fast. Ava set down her stylus, looked at her friend, her colleague, the person who'd followed her from New York to Milan on nothing but faith. Remember when you asked me why I left New York? She said quietly. The partner who screwed you over. Before I left, I played it safe. I did everything right. I smiled when I was supposed to smile. I took the shit assignments. I didn't make waves, and it got me nowhere except hurt. She met his eyes. I'm tired of safe, Marcus. Safe doesn't work for me. So you're choosing chaos. I'm choosing something that feels real, even if it's complicated. Marcus sighed. Just promise me you'll be smart about it. I promise. And if he hurts you, I get to key his very expensive car. Deal. At 6:30, Ava stood in front of her closet again. Jeans, he'd said. Comfortable. She chose dark denim, a soft sweater, boots, minimal makeup, hair down because apparently Marco had opinions about her hair. The buzzer rang at exactly 7. She grabbed her jacket and headed downstairs. Marco waited by his car, dressed down in jeans and a black sweater that probably still cost more than her monthly rent, but at least looked casual. He smiled when he saw her. You're wearing your hair down, he said. Someone mentioned he liked it. Smart man. He held the car door. They drove north out of the city center into neighborhoods Ava didn't recognize. The buildings got older, the streets narrower. Marco's driver navigated with the ease of someone who'd done this route before. They stopped in front of a small restaurant tucked between a bookshop and a tailor. The sign above the door was hand-painted, faded with age. Through the window, Ava could see maybe 8 tables, all occupied. This is your somewhere special? She asked. My grandmother's restaurant, family owned for 60 years. She passed last year, but my cousin runs it now. He led her inside. The warmth hit immediately, along with the smell of garlic and tomatoes and bread baking. A woman, maybe 30, looked up from the host stand and her face split into a genuine smile. Marco! She came around the desk and hugged him hard. Then she spotted Ava and her eyes went wide. And you brought someone. Ava, this is my cousin Sophia. Sophia, Ava Carter. Sophia shook her hand with enthusiasm. It's been years since he brought anyone here. You must be special. Sophia, Marco warned. What? It's true. Come, I have your table." She led them to a corner spot, private but with a view of the whole room. The table had fresh flowers, a candle already lit. "You planned this," Ava said as they sat. "Sophia planned it. I just told her I was bringing someone important." "Important. Would you prefer significant, meaningful, worth impressing?" "I'd prefer you stop making me blush in public." His smile was wicked. "No promises." Sophia returned with wine and bread, disappeared before they could order. Marco poured for both of them. "This place," Ava said, looking around. "It's beautiful." "It's home. Or was. I grew up 3 blocks from here. Spent every Sunday in this restaurant doing homework while my grandmother cooked." "Is that where you learned?" "Learned what?" "To see what things could be. You talk about buildings the way other people talk about people." Marco considered that. "My grandmother used to say everything has a soul, even buildings, even businesses. You just have to pay attention long enough to find it." He picked up his wine. "I think that's why I bought the Brera property. It still has a soul, it's just been sleeping. And you want to wake it up. I want to give it purpose again, make it matter." The food arrived in waves. Pasta that tasted like someone's memories. Chicken cooked the way only Italian grandmothers could teach. Vegetables so simple and perfect, they made Ava want to cry. Between courses, Marco told her about growing up in this neighborhood, about his brother Luca, who'd been the charming one, about his wife, Elena, who'd painted and laughed and made him believe in things beyond money and power. "She would have liked you," he said quietly. "Elena, she would have liked how you see the world." "How do I see it?" "Like it's full of possibility, like broken things can be fixed." He paused. "I lost that for a while. After she died, everything just felt empty." Ava reached across the table, took his hand. "And now?" "Now I'm sitting in my grandmother's restaurant with a woman who kissed me at a party and somehow made me remember what hope feels like." He squeezed her fingers. "So now feels different." They finished eating. Sophia brought dessert they didn't order and coffee they didn't need and refused payment when Marco tried. They argued in rapid Italian until Sophia won by hugging him and telling him to come back soon with his beautiful girlfriend. "I didn't correct her," Ava said in the car. "About which part?" "The girlfriend part." Marco looked at her. "Did you want me to?" "I don't know. Did you?" "No." "So what are we doing?" "I thought we were figuring that out." He pulled her closer. "Unless you want definitions and labels right now. I want to know if I'm going to wake up tomorrow and find out this was just," she gestured vaguely, "something temporary." "Ava." He turned her face toward him. "Nothing about this feels temporary. It feels terrifying and inevitable, and like if I'm not careful, I'm going to fall completely and there won't be any coming back from it." "That's not very reassuring." "You asked for honesty." "I did, didn't I?" She kissed him. Different from last night's desperation or this morning's tenderness. This was claiming something, making a choice she couldn't undo. When they broke apart, Marco rested his forehead against hers. "Come home with me again," he said. "Okay." This time felt different, less frantic, more deliberate. They took their time, learning each other in ways they'd been too urgent to notice before. Marco was careful and thorough and attentive in ways that made her chest ache. Afterward, lying in his bed again, Ava felt the weight of what they were building. It wasn't just attraction, it was something more dangerous than that. Something that required trust and risk and the willingness to get hurt. "I'm scared," she admitted into the dark. Marco's arms tightened around her. "Of what?" "Of this being real. Of it mattering. Of—" She paused. "Of Victor Renault or someone like him taking it away." "He won't." "You can't promise that." "No, but I can promise I'll do everything in my power to protect you, to keep you safe." "What if that's not enough?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then we deal with it together. But I'm not letting you go without a fight." Ava closed her eyes, let herself believe it, let herself hope that maybe, for once, the risk would be worth it. They fell asleep tangled together again, the city quiet outside, the future uncertain but theirs to face. The weekend passed in a blur of work and stolen moments. Marco had meetings. Ava had deadlines. but they found time. Coffee on Saturday morning in his kitchen, lunch on Sunday at a place near her studio, small things that felt enormous. Monday morning brought Ava back to reality with a project meeting at 10. She arrived early, professional, determined to maintain boundaries. Marco was already in the conference room with Antonio, reviewing blueprints. He looked up when she entered. Their eyes met. Held. "Miss Carter," he said formally. "Mr. DeLuca." Antonio glanced between them, said nothing, but his expression suggested he knew exactly what was happening and found it amusing. The meeting was all business: progress reports, timeline adjustments, budget reviews. Ava presented her updated concepts. Marco asked pointed questions. They circled each other professionally, carefully, maintaining the fiction that nothing had changed, except everything had changed. When the meeting ended, Antonio packed up quickly. "I'll leave you two to discuss the finishes," he said, which was code for, "I know what's happening and I'm giving you privacy." The door closed. Ava looked at Marco. "We're terrible at this," she said. "At what?" "Pretending we're just colleagues." Antonio knows. Everyone probably knows. Marco moved around the table, stopped in front of her. "Does that bother you?" "I don't know yet. Ask me again when it doesn't feel so new." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was becoming familiar. She was starting to crave it. "Have dinner with me tonight," he said. "We had dinner Friday." "Then have dinner with me again, and tomorrow, and the day after that. People will definitely talk." "Let them." Ava studied his face, the sharp lines, the scar, the dark eyes that saw too much. This man who'd lost people he loved, and somehow still had the courage to risk it again. "Okay," she said. "Dinner tonight." His smile was worth every complication this would bring. The week spun into motion. Progress on the Brera building accelerated. The original tile work was fully revealed, stunning and intact. They found more hidden details, architectural elements that had been covered for decades. Every discovery felt like a small miracle. Ava spent her days managing contractors and her evenings with Marco, finding rhythm in the chaos. He was different than she'd expected. Quieter, more thoughtful. He listened more than he talked, remembered small details, paid attention in ways that made her feel seen. But there were shadows, too. Phone calls he took in other rooms. Meetings that ran late with no explanation. Moments when his expression went hard and distant. When she could see the dangerous man everyone warned her about. Thursday evening, they were at his place when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his whole body tensed. "I need to take this," he said. "Okay." He stepped onto the balcony. Through the glass, Ava watched him pace, his free hand clenched into a fist. The conversation lasted 5 minutes. When he came back inside, his expression was carved from stone. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing that concerns you." "Marco." "I'm handling it." "That's not an answer." He poured himself whiskey, drank it in one swallow. "Victor Renault is buying properties around the Brera building. 4 purchases in the last week." Ava's stomach dropped. "Why?" "Because he knows I care about that project. Because he wants to make renovation difficult. Because he's a petty bastard who can't let anything go." "What does that mean for us?" "It means construction will take longer, cost more. It means he'll fight every permit, challenge every decision, make my life difficult." Marco poured another drink. "It's what he does." "There has to be something we can do." "There isn't. Not legally. Victor operates in gray areas. He's too smart to leave evidence." Ava moved closer, put her hand on his arm. "So we make the building so good he can't touch it. We do work that matters. That's how we win." Marco looked at her. Something in his expression softened. "You really believe that?" "I have to, otherwise what's the point?" He pulled her close, kissed her forehead. "You make it sound simple." "It is simple. Not easy, but simple." They stood like that for a long moment, wrapped around each other, the city glittering outside. Ava felt the weight of his worry, his anger, his fear that Victor would find a way to hurt what they were building. She held him tighter. That night, she woke to find Marco's side of the bed empty. She found him in his living room, standing at the windows, silhouetted against the city lights. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Thinking." "About?" About how to keep you safe from the choices I made 5 years ago. Ava moved beside him. You can't control everything. I can try. Marco. She turned him to face her. I knew what I was getting into. You told me it was dangerous. I chose this anyway. You shouldn't have to. But I did. And I'm still choosing it. She held his gaze. So stop trying to protect me from my own decisions. He cupped her face in his hands. What if something happens? Then we deal with it. Together. Like you said. For a moment she thought he might argue, but instead he kissed her, deep and desperate, like he was trying to memorize the taste of her. When he pulled back, his eyes were darker than she'd ever seen them. If Victor comes near you, he said quietly, I will end him, legal or not, consequences be damned. The certainty in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel safe in a way she'd never experienced. Not because he was threatening violence, but because he meant it. Because she mattered enough that he'd crossed lines he'd carefully avoided for 5 years. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, she said. Let's hope. They went back to bed. Marco held her close, his arms tight around her waist, his breath warm against her neck. Ava lay awake listening to the city, feeling the steady beat of his heart against her back, and wondered when exactly she'd fallen in love with him. Because she had. Somewhere between the kiss at the gallery and this moment, she'd gone and fallen completely. And that terrified her more than anything Victor Renault could do. The following Tuesday started normal. Too normal, in retrospect. Ava should have recognized it as the kind of calm that comes before something breaks. She was at the Brera site with Marcus and Elisa, reviewing the ground floor layout. The demolition was complete, the space stripped to its bones. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, catching dust motes and illuminating the original stonework they'd uncovered. It was beautiful in that raw, unfinished way that made Ava's chest tight with possibility. The retail tenants are going to lose their minds over this, Elisa said, photographing the exposed brick. This is exactly the kind of authentic detail people pay premium for. Marcus was measuring the column spacing. We could do floating shelves between here and here. Keep the sightlines open. Ava nodded, already sketching in her tablet. And if we... Her phone rang. Marco's number. Give me a second, she told her team, stepping toward the windows for privacy. Hey, she answered. I'm at the site. The space is looking... Where exactly are you? His voice was sharp, wrong. The Brera building, ground floor. Why? How many people are with you? Just Marcus and Elisa. Marco, what's... Listen to me carefully. The edge in his voice made her blood cold. I need you to leave, right now. Take your team and go. What? Why? There's been a threat. Against the project, against you. He paused. Victor made a move. I don't have details yet, but I need you somewhere safe until I do. Ava's hand tightened on the phone. A threat. What kind of threat? The kind I take seriously. Ava, please, just trust me and leave. She looked at Marcus and Elisa, both absorbed in their work, completely unaware that anything was wrong. You're scaring me. Good. Be scared. Be careful. And get out of that building. His voice softened slightly. I'm sending a car. It'll be there in 5 minutes. Get in it. Don't argue. Marco, 5 minutes. Promise me. Okay, I promise. The line went dead. Ava stood frozen for a moment, her heart hammering against her ribs. Then training kicked in. She turned to her team, kept her voice level. We need to go. Marcus looked up. What? We just got here. Something came up. We need to leave now. Ava, what? Now, Marcus. The tone got through. He and Elisa exchanged glances, packed up their equipment without further question. They were outside within 3 minutes, standing on the cobblestone street in weak afternoon sunlight. A black sedan pulled up exactly on time. The driver's window rolled down, revealing a man Ava didn't recognize. Ms. Carter? He asked. Yes. Mr. DeLuca sent me. Please get in. Marcus grabbed her arm. Ava, what the hell is happening? I don't know, but Marco said there was a threat and I need to go. Then we're coming with you. Marcus, not up for debate. You're not getting in that car alone. Ava looked at him. At Elisa, whose face had gone pale but determined. Her team, her friends. people who'd followed her into uncertainty before. "Okay," she said. "Let's go." They climbed into the sedan. The driver pulled into traffic immediately, moving with the kind of efficiency that suggested he'd done this before. Ava's phone rang again. Marco. "Are you in the car?" he asked. "Yes, with Marcus and Elisa." "Good. The driver will bring you to my office. There's security here. You'll be safe." "Safe from what?" "Marco, you need to tell me what's happening." She heard him take a breath. "Victor sent a message, through intermediaries. He's targeting the Brera project, making it personal. He mentioned you by name." The world tilted. "He what?" "I'm handling it, but until I know his next move, I need you somewhere I can control the variables." You mean somewhere you can watch me?" "Yes." At least he was honest. "And my team? They're with you. They're safe." He paused. "I'll explain everything when you get here. 20 minutes. The drive felt longer. Ava sat pressed between Marcus and Elisa, watching Milan blur past the window, trying to process what was happening. Victor Renault knew her name, was using her as leverage, had made her part of whatever sick game he and Marco had been playing for 5 years. Marcus finally broke the silence. "I'm going to say it." "Don't," Ava warned. "I told you so." "Marcus? I told you Marco DeLuca was dangerous. I told you to be careful. And now we're in a car being driven to a secure location because some other dangerous guy is threatening you. You done?" "Not even close, but I'll pause for now." Elisa reached for Ava's hand, squeezed it. "Are you okay?" "Ask me later." The DeLuca Enterprises building appeared ahead. The driver pulled into an underground garage, navigating through multiple security checkpoints. They took a private elevator directly to the top floor. Marco was waiting when the doors opened. He moved immediately to Ava, his hands framing her face, eyes searching hers. "You're okay," he said. Not a question, a statement he needed to confirm. "I'm fine." Confused and annoyed, but fine. He pulled her against him briefly, then seemed to remember they had an audience. He released her, stepped back, turned to Marcus and Elisa. "Thank you for staying with her." Marcus crossed his arms. "You want to tell us what's going on?" "Conference room, now." They followed him down the hall. Laura was there, along with Antonio and 2 men Ava didn't recognize. Security, based on their suits and the way they stood. Marco gestured for everyone to sit. He remained standing, his posture rigid. 3 hours ago, he began, Victor Renault approached one of my contractors, offered him triple rate to abandon the Brera project. When the contractor refused, Victor made it clear the offer wasn't optional. He mentioned Ms. Carter specifically, said it would be unfortunate if something happened to the American designer who was getting too close to things that didn't concern her. The room went quiet. Ava felt ice settle in her stomach. "That's a direct threat," Antonio said quietly. "Yes." "Have you contacted the police?" "Victor's too smart for that. The contractor who reported this won't go on record. He's scared. They all are." Marco's jaw tightened. "Victor operates in shadows, always has. But this, mentioning Ava by name, this is new." "Why now?" Ava asked. "What changed?" Marco looked at her. "You did. He knows you matter to me. He's using that." "So this is because we're—" She stopped. Couldn't finish the sentence in front of everyone. "Yes." No hesitation, no softening it. "This is because of us." Marcus stood up. "Then maybe you should fix it. End whatever this is before Ava gets hurt." "Marcus," Ava warned. "No, he brought you into this. Some vendetta that has nothing to do with you, and now you're being threatened because you made the mistake of getting involved with him." Marco's expression didn't change. "You're right." That stopped Marcus cold. "What?" "You're right. I brought her into this. I knew Victor would see her as leverage, and I got involved with her anyway." He moved to the windows, stared out at the city. "I was selfish. I wanted her more than I wanted to keep her safe." "Marco," Ava said. He turned. "But walking away now won't protect you. Victor already knows your name, already sees you as connected to me. Ending our relationship won't change that." "Then what will?" Elisa asked quietly. "Finishing the project. Making it so successful that Victor's interference becomes irrelevant, and keeping Ava somewhere safe until we do." You want to lock me up, Ava said flatly. I want you protected. Those aren't the same thing. Close enough. She stood up, walked to where he stood by the windows, kept her voice low enough that the others couldn't hear. You don't get to make this decision for me. Ava, no, you promised me honesty. You promised we'd handle things together. You don't get to switch to protective mode and cut me out. His eyes were dark, conflicted. I can't lose you. Then don't push me away. She held his gaze. We deal with Victor together. We finish the project together. We figure this out together. And if he comes after you, then you do whatever you need to do, but you don't sideline me in my own life. They stared at each other. The rest of the room had gone quiet, watching them. Finally, Marco nodded. Okay, together. He turned to the security men. I want someone on Ms. Carter at all times, discreet but present. And I want updates on Victor's movements. Every property purchase, every contractor he approaches, every move he makes. Already on it, one of them said. Good. Marco looked at Antonio. Double security at the Brera site. No one enters without authorization. Done. The meeting dissolved. Marcus and Elisa left with promises to keep the rest of the team informed. Laura arranged for additional security measures. Antonio made calls. Eventually it was just Ava and Marco in his office. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For what? For all of it. For dragging you into my mess. For Victor knowing your name. For not being able to protect you from the consequences of caring about me. Ava moved closer. You know what I'm sorry for? What? Nothing. Because I made my choice with my eyes open. You told me this was dangerous. I chose it anyway. That doesn't make it okay. Maybe not, but it makes it mine. She took his hand. So stop apologizing and start figuring out how we end this. His fingers tightened around hers. I've been trying to end this for 5 years. Then try differently. Victor expects you to react with force. He's counting on you to make a move he can counter, so don't give him what he expects. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we make the Brera building so exceptional that it becomes untouchable. We document everything. We make it public. We turn it into a story about preservation and vision and bringing history back to life. We make it matter to Milan. She met his eyes. We make it bigger than Victor's petty revenge. Marco studied her face. That's not a bad idea. I have them occasionally. More than occasionally. He pulled her close. This is why He stopped. Ava's heart stuttered. Why you what? Why I need you in my life, he finished, but she heard what he hadn't said, felt it in the way he held her, the way he looked at her. Marco, I know, too soon, too complicated, too dangerous. He rested his forehead against hers. Doesn't make it less true. She kissed him, slow and deliberate, tasting the fear and the hope and the certainty she felt settling into her bones. When they broke apart, his driver was waiting to take her home. Marco insisted on the security detail. Ava didn't argue. She could pick her battles. The next few days passed in controlled chaos. Ava worked with heightened awareness, constantly conscious of the security presence shadowing her movements. Marco's man was good at being invisible, but she always knew he was there. It should have felt oppressive. Instead, it felt like Marco's hand on her back. Steady, protective, present. The Brera project accelerated. They leaked strategic details to design blogs, architectural magazines, local press. The story caught fire exactly as Ava had predicted. Historic preservation meets modern vision. A love letter to Milan's past. Within a week, the building had become a minor sensation. Victor Renault's interference started looking less like smart business and more like sabotage of a public good. Permits that had been delayed suddenly cleared. Contractors who'd been scared started feeling brave again. The momentum shifted. Friday afternoon, Ava was at her studio reviewing fabric samples when her phone rang. Unknown number, but not Marco's usual unknown number. She shouldn't have answered. Later, she'd recognize that instinct. But in the moment, distracted by deadlines and decisions, she just picked up. Ava Carter, she said. Ms. Carter. Victor Renault. His voice was smooth, cultured, dangerous. I hope I'm not interrupting. Every muscle in her body went tight. What do you want? Just to talk. We got off on the wrong foot at the fundraiser. I'd like to correct that. I don't think we have anything to discuss. Oh, but we do. We have Marco in common, and the Brera building, and your impressive ability to make my life difficult. He paused. I respect that, actually. Not many people have the courage. If this is supposed to be threatening, you're not very good at it. I don't make threats, Ms. Carter. I make offers, and I'm offering you a substantial sum to walk away from the project. Ava's blood went cold. You're trying to buy me off. I'm trying to make your life easier. Marco is a complicated man with complicated enemies. You're talented. You don't need his problems. Thanks for the concern. Not interested. The amount is very generous. Still not interested. Then perhaps we should meet. Discuss this in person. I find these conversations go better face to face. I find they don't happen at all. Pity. His voice hardened slightly. I was hoping we could resolve this professionally. There's nothing to resolve. I'm finishing the project. You can't stop it. Can't I? He made a thoughtful sound. You know, Marco lost his wife and brother because of me. An accident, of course. Nothing provable. But these things happen when people don't listen to reason. Ava's hand shook. You're admitting you killed them. I'm admitting nothing. I'm simply pointing out that accidents happen, particularly to people who get too close to things that aren't their concern. He paused. You seem like a smart woman, Ms. Carter. Smart enough to recognize when you're out of your depth. And you seem like a man who's afraid of losing. Silence. Then cold enough to frost glass. I don't lose. First time for everything. She hung up, then immediately called Marco. He answered on the first ring. Ava. Victor just called me. What? The word came out sharp. When? Just now. He tried to buy me off the project. Then Marco, he basically admitted to killing Elena and Luca. He said accidents happen to people who don't listen. She heard something crash in the background. Marco's voice when he spoke again was barely controlled. Where are you? My studio. Is the security there? In the car outside, I think. I'm sending Antonio. Stay inside, lock the doors, don't answer calls from numbers you don't recognize. Marco, I'm fine. He's just trying to scare me. It's working. On me. She heard him take a breath. I'm coming to you. 20 minutes. You don't have to... 20 minutes. He hung up. Ava sat at her desk, staring at her phone, adrenaline making her hand shake. Across the room, Simone had stopped working. What happened? Her friend asked. Victor Renault called me. The guy Marco hates? That's the one. What did he want? To threaten me. To buy me off. To remind me that people who get close to Marco tend to have accidents. Simone's face went pale. Ava, maybe you should... Don't. Don't say I should walk away. Not you too. I'm worried about you. I know. I'm worried about me too. Ava stood up, started pacing. But I'm not letting some bastard scare me away from the best work I've ever done. Or from Marco. And Victor doesn't get to win just because he's willing to play dirty. Even if it means putting yourself in danger. Especially then. Marco arrived in 15 minutes, which meant he'd driven like a maniac. He came through the studio doors looking like violence barely contained, Antonio trailing behind him. Everyone out, Marco said to the room. Now. Simone, Marcus, Elisa, and Paolo scattered without argument. Antonio positioned himself by the door. Marco moved straight to Ava, his hands on her shoulders. Tell me exactly what he said. So she did. Every word she could remember. Marco's expression got darker with each sentence. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. He's escalating, he said finally, because the project is working, because the publicity is making him look bad, because he knows you matter to me. Marco's hands tightened on her shoulders. And he's using that. So we don't give him ammunition. We finish the project. We do it so well that Victor's interference becomes irrelevant. Ava, he just threatened you. He's been threatening you for 5 years. You didn't back down. That's different. Why? Because I'm a woman? Because you think I can't handle it? Because I love you. The words came out raw and unfiltered. Because the thought of something happening to you makes me want to burn down everything Victor's ever built. Because I already lost Elena and Luca, and I will not lose you too. The world stopped. Ava stared at him, her heart hammering. You love me, she repeated. Marco looked like he wanted to take it back, but he didn't. Yes. That's the first time you've said it. I know. You picked a hell of a moment. I'm aware. Ava reached up, framed his face with her hands. I love you too, which is why I'm not walking away, which is why we're going to finish this together. He pulled her against him, his arms tight around her, his face buried in her hair. I can't lose you. You won't. She held him just as tight. But you have to trust me. Trust that I can handle this. I do trust you. It's Victor I don't trust. Then we outsmart him. We make the Brera building so successful, so visible, that he can't touch it without exposing himself. Marco pulled back enough to look at her. And if he comes after you anyway? Then you do what you've been planning to do for 5 years. Which is? Destroy him. Something flickered in his eyes, dark and dangerous and entirely focused. I can do that. I know you can. They stood like that for a moment, wrapped around each other, making silent promises neither of them was sure they could keep. Antonio cleared his throat from the doorway. We should move this conversation somewhere more secure. Marco nodded. My place. Ava, pack a bag. You're staying with me until this is resolved. Marco, not negotiable. Victor called your personal number. He knows where you work. I'm not taking chances. Ava wanted to argue, but the truth was, she didn't want to be alone right now either. Okay, but just until we figure this out. Just until, he agreed, but they both knew it was a lie. The drive to Marco's apartment was tense. Antonio followed in a second car. The security detail had doubled. Milan looked different through the tinted windows, beautiful and threatening all at once. Marco's apartment felt like sanctuary. He locked the door, set the alarm, poured them both whiskey even though it was barely 6. We need a plan, Ava said. I have a plan. Which is, keep you safe, finish the building, and when Victor makes his next move, I'll be ready. That's not a plan. That's reacting. What would you suggest? Ava thought about it. About Victor's arrogance. About the way he'd talked to her like she was a pawn, like she didn't matter except as leverage. We make him think he's winning, she said slowly. We pull back on the publicity, make it look like we're scared, give him confidence. And then? Then we launch the Brera building with every major publication, every design influencer, every cultural institution in Milan present. We make it an event he can't sabotage without looking like the villain. Marco studied her. That's actually brilliant. I have my moments. You have more than moments. He pulled her close. You're sure about this? About which part? The building or us? Both. Ava looked at him, really looked, at the sharp lines of his face, the scar through his eyebrow, the dark eyes that saw too much and still chose to care. This complicated, dangerous, unexpectedly gentle man who'd somehow become essential to her existence. I'm sure, she said, even knowing what it costs? Especially knowing that. He kissed her, deep and thorough and full of promises that tasted like forever and fear all mixed together. When they broke apart, Ava rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, and tried not to think about all the ways this could still go wrong. The next morning, they implemented the plan. Ava quietly canceled press interviews, stopped posting project updates, made it look like Victor's threats had worked. Marco did the same, pulling back from public appearances, keeping a lower profile. To everyone watching, it looked like retreat. Behind the scenes, they worked harder than ever. Antonio coordinated with contractors. Ava refined every detail until the building was perfect. They planned the launch event with military precision, 3 weeks out, invitation only, impossible to ignore. Victor took the bait. His property purchases around the Brera building slowed. His contractor interference eased. He thought he'd won. That's when Ava knew they had him. 2 weeks before the launch, she was reviewing catering options with Marco when her phone rang. Her mother's number. I should take this, she said. She'll worry if I don't. Marco nodded. Ava stepped into the bedroom. Hey, Mom. Ava, sweetie, I haven't heard from you in weeks. How's Milan? Good. Busy. I'm working on a big project. That's wonderful. Your father and I were thinking about visiting next month. Would that work? Ava hesitated. The thought of her parents meeting Marco, of them seeing the security detail, of explaining why her boyfriend had enemies who made threats. Maybe not next month, she said carefully. Things are complicated right now. Complicated how? Just work stuff, deadlines. Her mother was quiet for a moment, then, Ava, are you in some kind of trouble? What? No, I'm fine. You sound stressed. I am stressed, but it's good stress. Project stress. Another pause. You'd tell me if something was wrong, wouldn't you? Ava closed her eyes. Yes, Mom, I promise. They talked for a few more minutes before Ava made an excuse to hang up. She sat on the edge of Marco's bed, staring at her phone, feeling the weight of all the things she wasn't saying. Marco appeared in the doorway. Everything okay? My mom wants to visit. That's good, isn't it? It would be if my life wasn't currently full of security details and men who make death threats. She looked up at him. How do I explain you to my parents? What's to explain? Oh, this is Marco. He's my boyfriend. He's also possibly involved in organized crime and currently being targeted by a sociopath who killed his wife. Would you like some coffee? Marco's mouth curved. I'm not involved in organized crime. The possibly is doing a lot of work in that sentence. I run legitimate businesses. Some of my associates are less legitimate. That's not the same thing. You're parsing semantics. I'm being accurate. He sat beside her. But you're right. Meeting parents is complicated when your life looks like mine. Do you ever wish it didn't look like this? Every day since Elena died. He took her hand. But I can't change the past. I can only try to build something better. With me. With you. Ava leaned against him. We're really doing this. The launch. The confrontation. All of it. We are. And you're ready? I've been ready for 5 years. She believed him. But ready and successful weren't the same thing. And somewhere in Milan, Victor Renault was planning his next move, thinking he'd already won. Ava just hoped they were ready for whatever came next. They weren't ready. 3 days before the launch, Ava was leaving the Brera building after a final walkthrough when it happened. Fast and surgical and terrifying in its efficiency. A van pulled up, 2 men got out. Marco's security guy, she'd learned his name was Paolo, different from her Paolo at the studio, moved to intercept. One of the men shot him. Not with a gun. A tranquilizer dart. Paolo went down hard. Ava ran. Made it maybe 10 feet before someone grabbed her from behind, a hand clamping over her mouth. She bit down hard, tasted blood, heard cursing. Then something pricked her neck and the world went sideways. The last thing she saw was the Brera building, beautiful and almost finished, receding as they dragged her into the van. She woke up in darkness. Complete darkness. Her head throbbed and her mouth tasted like copper and chemicals. She was sitting in a chair, her hands zip-tied behind her back, her ankles bound to the chair legs. Ava forced herself to breathe slowly, to think. She was alive. That was something. They hadn't hurt her beyond the tranquilizer. That was something too. But where was she? And how long had she been out? Light flooded the space. Ava squinted against it, her eyes adjusting slowly. She was in some kind of warehouse. Empty except for the chair she was tied to and another chair about 10 feet away. Victor Renault sat in that chair looking relaxed and entirely too pleased with himself. Ms. Carter, he said, I apologize for the dramatics, but you wouldn't accept my invitation to meet, so I had to improvise. Ava's voice came out rough. You kidnapped me. I borrowed you, temporarily. He stood, moved closer. I want you to understand something. This isn't personal. You seem like a nice woman, talented, ambitious. Under different circumstances, I might have hired you myself. How generous. But you made a choice. You chose Marco. And Marco is someone who needs to learn that actions have consequences. So this is about him, not the building. It's about both. Victor circled her chair. The building is just property. But you're the first thing Marco has cared about since Elena. That makes you valuable. And value can be leveraged. Ava's mind raced. Marco would be looking for her by now. Paolo would have reported the abduction. Security would be mobilized. She just needed to buy time. "What do you want?" she asked. "I want Marco to withdraw from the Brera project, transfer it to me, publicly acknowledge that he overstepped." "He'll never do that." "He will, for you." Victor stopped in front of her. "Because that's his weakness. He cares too much. It's what got Elena killed. It's what will get you killed if he doesn't cooperate." "You really did kill her. It wasn't an accident." "Of course not. Brake lines are easy to cut if you know what you're doing. The investigation was easy to redirect if you pay the right people." He said it casually, like discussing the weather. Marco had been warned. He didn't listen, so I took away what mattered most. Rage flooded through her. "You're insane." "I'm practical. Marco and I have been competing for years. He needed to understand there are lines you don't cross, rules you don't break." Victor checked his watch. He should be getting my message right about now. As if on cue, Ava's phone, which Victor must have taken from her, buzzed on a nearby table. Victor picked it up, smiled at the screen. "Right on schedule. He's offering to trade himself for you. How noble." He typed something, then set the phone down. "I told him to come to the old shipping warehouse on Via Micanat. Alone. He'll do it, of course, because he's predictable that way." "And then what? You kill us both?" "Don't be dramatic. I'm not a murderer." He paused. "Well, not anymore. These days I prefer leverage. I'll let you both live. In exchange for complete withdrawal from Milan, Marco moves his business elsewhere. You close your studio. Everyone walks away. You think he'll agree to that?" "I think he'll agree to anything to keep you safe." Victor returned to his chair. "Now we wait." Ava tested the zip ties. Too tight. Her hands were already going numb. She looked around the space, searching for anything useful. But it was empty. Just concrete floors and high windows, and the distant sound of traffic. She thought about Marco, about his face when he'd said he loved her, about the way he held her like she was something precious, about the promise they'd made to handle things together. She hadn't kept that promise. She'd gotten herself kidnapped, made herself the exact liability he'd feared. But she wasn't helpless, and she wasn't giving up. "Can I ask you something?" Ava said. Victor looked amused. "By all means." "Was it worth it? Killing Elena and Luca, spending 5 years playing these games, all because Marco beat you at business?" "It wasn't about business. No. It was about respect. Marco came to Milan thinking he could take whatever he wanted, build whatever he wanted, like the city belonged to him." Victor's voice hardened. "I was here first. I built my empire from nothing. And he just waltzed in, charmed the right people, made me look second-rate." "So this is about your ego. This is about knowing your place. And murdering his family was how you taught him that lesson." "I gave him multiple warnings. He ignored them." Victor stood again, agitated now. Elena was collateral damage. Unfortunate, but necessary. Marco needed to learn that in Milan, I make the rules. Except he's still here. Still building. Still beating you. "Not for much longer." Ava laughed. She couldn't help it. The sound was harsh and slightly unhinged. "You don't get it. You kidnapped me thinking it would break him, but all you did was guarantee he'll destroy you." "He can try." "He won't try. He'll succeed, because you just made this personal in a way that can't be undone." Victor's expression darkened. He moved toward her fast, and Ava braced for impact. But he just grabbed her chin, forced her to look at him. "You know what I think? I think you're bluffing. I think you're scared. And I think when Marco gets here, you'll both do exactly what I tell you to." "Think whatever you want," Ava said. "You already lost. You just don't know it yet." He released her roughly, checked his watch again. "He should be here soon." 20 minutes passed, then 30. Ava's hands had gone completely numb. Her head still throbbed, but she kept her expression neutral, her breathing steady. Then she heard it. The distant sound of cars. Multiple cars. Victor heard it too. He moved to the window, looked out, and his expression changed. "What?" The warehouse doors exploded inward. Not literally, but it felt that way. Marco came through first, followed by Antonio and at least a dozen men in tactical gear. Not police. Private security. The kind that didn't ask questions. Victor grabbed for something, a gun, Ava realized with horror, but Antonio was faster. He had Victor on the ground in seconds, the gun skittering across the concrete. Marco didn't even look at Victor. He came straight to Ava, his face pale, his hand shaking as he cut through the zip ties. "Are you hurt?" His voice was rough. "Did he hurt you?" "I'm okay. Tranquilizer, that's all." He pulled her up into his arms, his whole body trembling. "I thought, when Paolo called, I know, I'm sorry. I should have been more careful." "This isn't your fault." He pulled back, cupped her face. "None of this is your fault." Across the warehouse, Antonio had Victor in restraints. The security team was clearing the space, checking for additional threats. "How did you find me?" Ava asked. "Paolo had a tracker in his jacket. When he went down, it activated. We followed the van's route, checked traffic cameras." Marco's hands were still shaking. "I called in every favor I had, every contact, every one. The message Victor sent said to come alone. I don't follow rules from men who kidnap the people I love." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her mouth. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is exactly what I was afraid of. But I'm fine. We're fine. He could have killed you. But he didn't, and now we have him." She looked over at Victor, who was being hauled to his feet. He confessed. To Elena and Luca. To everything. Marco went very still. "What?" "He told me he cut the brake lines, that he paid off investigators. He was bragging about it." Ava met his eyes. "I recorded it." "How?" She gestured to her smartwatch still on her wrist. "Voice memo. It's been running since I woke up." For a moment, Marco just stared at her. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. The sound startled and genuine and slightly disbelieving. "You recorded his confession." "I got kidnapped by a supervillain. I improvised." He kissed her again, hard and thorough and full of relief. "You're incredible." "I'm practical." Antonio approached with Victor in tow. The man looked nothing like the composed figure who'd sat in that chair 20 minutes ago. He looked defeated, scared. "What do you want to do with him?" Antonio asked Marco. Marco looked at Victor for a long moment. Ava could see the war happening behind his eyes. The anger, the grief, the 5 years of wanting revenge. "Call the police," he said finally. "We have his confession. Let the justice system handle it." Victor's eyes widened. "You can't. I have connections. Money. I'll walk." "Not for murder. Not with recorded evidence." Marco moved closer. "You wanted to teach me about consequences. Here's yours. You're going to spend the rest of your life in prison knowing that the woman you kidnapped is the one who took you down." "Marco, we're done. You and me. You're done." Marco turned his back on Victor, took Ava's hand. "Let's go home." The police arrived minutes later. Ava gave her statement, handed over the recording. Victor was taken away in handcuffs, still protesting, still threatening. Nobody paid attention. The ride back to Marco's apartment was quiet. He kept his hand on hers, his thumb moving in slow circles against her palm. In the rearview mirror, Ava could see Antonio following in a second car, always watching, always protecting. "I need to tell you something," Marco said as they pulled into his building's garage. "Okay. When Paolo called and said you'd been taken, He stopped, started again. "For about 30 seconds, I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All I could see was Elena's car, the wreckage, the funeral." Ava squeezed his hand. "I'm not Elena." "I know, but the fear is the same. The thought of losing someone He looked at her. "I can't do this again. I can't survive losing someone else." "Then it's a good thing I'm not going anywhere." "Ava, I'm serious. What happened today? That's my life. That's the risk of being with me. And I know you said you could handle it, but—" She kissed him, cut off the spiral of fear before it could take hold. "I love you," she said against his mouth. "I love you, and I'm staying, and you don't get to protect me from my own choices. We talked about this. I know. So trust me. Trust that I know what I'm signing up for. What if something happens? Then we deal with it. Together." She pulled back, held his gaze. "That's the deal. We're together, which means we face everything together, good and bad. Safe and dangerous. All of it. Marco rested his forehead against hers. You're too stubborn for your own good. You love it. I really do. They went upstairs. Marco drew her a bath, brought her wine, sat on the bathroom floor while she soaked. They didn't talk. They didn't need to. The silence was enough. Later, wrapped in his robe, Ava found Marco on the balcony. The city glittered below them, beautiful and indifferent and full of the life they were building together. The launch is in 2 days, she said. We can postpone. No, we're doing it. We're showing everyone that Victor didn't win. That fear doesn't stop us. Marco pulled her close. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. The next 2 days were chaos. Finishing touches on the building, final coordination with caterers, press, guests. The police wanted additional statements. Lawyers were involved. But through it all, Ava kept working. Because Victor was right about one thing. The building mattered. It was more than just property. It was a statement, a promise, a piece of history brought back to life. And she was going to make it perfect. Launch day arrived cool and clear. Ava stood in the Brera building's main retail space, watching the morning light stream through the original windows, catching on the restored tile work. The space was transformed. Still industrial, still honest, but polished now, purposeful. Marcus appeared at her elbow. You did it. We did it. No, this was your vision. We just helped make it real. He looked around. It's beautiful, Ava. Best work we've ever done. Elisa and Simone joined them. Paolo, Studio Paolo, not Security Paolo, brought coffee. Her team stood together in the space they'd built, and Ava felt something tight in her chest loosen. Thank you, she said, all of you, for believing in this, for following me to Milan and sticking around even when things got weird. Weird is an understatement, Marcus said, but yeah, we did good. The guests started arriving at 6. Everyone who mattered in Milan's design and architecture world, city officials, business leaders, press, the building filled with voices and energy and the particular kind of excitement that comes from witnessing something special. Marco found her in the crowd. He looked devastating in a dark suit, his hair styled, the scar through his eyebrow somehow making him more striking instead of less. You ready? He asked. To give a speech in front of 300 people? Absolutely not. You'll be brilliant. How do you know? Because you always are. The speeches started at 7. Antonio went first, talking about the construction process. Then an architecture critic discussed the building's history. Then it was Ava's turn. She stood at the microphone, looking out at the crowd, and for a moment panic threatened. All these people, all this attention, what if she messed up? What if... Her eyes found Marco. He was standing near the back, watching her with complete confidence, like he knew she could do this, like he'd never doubted it. Ava took a breath and began. When I first saw this building, it was empty, forgotten. People walked past it every day without really seeing it. That happens sometimes. We stop seeing things that have always been there. We take history for granted. She walked to the window, gestured at the original glass. But history isn't just about preservation. It's about purpose. This building was designed in 1891 to bring people together, to create community, to matter. For too long, it didn't get to do that. Tonight, we're giving it that chance again. She talked about the restoration process, about finding the hidden tile work, about making choices that honored the past while serving the present. She thanked her team, thanked Marco, thanked Milan for letting an American designer make her mark on the city. When she finished, the applause was genuine and sustained. People came up after, congratulating her, asking for her card. Gallery owners, developers, other designers. Ava smiled and networked and tried not to let the magnitude of what they'd accomplished overwhelm her. Around 9, Marco pulled her aside. Come with me, he said. Where? You'll see. He led her upstairs away from the crowd. To the top floor, which would eventually be offices but was currently still empty. Just windows and exposed brick and the city spreading out below them. I wanted to show you something, Marco said. He pulled out his phone, opened an email. It was from a prosecutor. Ava scanned it quickly, her eyes catching on key phrases. Confession admissible. Flight risk denied. Trial date set. Victor's not getting bail, Marco said. The recording you made, combined with the physical evidence they found, he's done. The prosecutor thinks they can get him for Elena and Luca's murders plus your kidnapping. Ava looked up. How do you feel about that? Ask me that a week ago, I would have said it wasn't enough, that I wanted him to suffer the way I suffered. He put his phone away. But now, I just feel tired and ready to be done with it. That's growth. That's you. You make me want to be better than the anger. He took her hands, which brings me to why I brought you up here. You're being mysterious. I'm being nervous. Marco DeLuca doesn't get nervous. Marco DeLuca is about to do something he's never done before, and he's terrified. He took a breath. I know it's fast. I know we've only been together a few months. I know your life is in Milan, and mine is complicated, and we're still figuring things out. Ava's heart started hammering. Marco, but I also know I don't want to waste time. I wasted 5 years being angry, being stuck. And then you kissed me at a party, and everything changed. He reached into his pocket. I'm not asking you to marry me right now, but I'm asking if you'd be willing to eventually, when we're ready, when the timing is right. He opened a small box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, perfect. It was Elena's, he said quietly. She would have wanted you to have it. Wanted you to know that loving again doesn't mean forgetting. It means honoring what was by building something new. Tears blurred Ava's vision. You're asking me to maybe marry you eventually? I'm asking if you see a future with me. The real kind. The permanent kind. She looked at the ring, at Marco, at the city beyond the windows. 6 months ago, she'd been watching her boyfriend flirt with someone else at a party, feeling invisible, feeling stuck. And then she'd made one impulsive decision, one reckless choice. And it had led her here, to this man, to this moment, to a future she'd never imagined but suddenly couldn't imagine living without. Yes, she said, I see that future. I want that future. Marco's smile was worth everything they'd been through to get here. He slipped the ring onto her right hand, not the left, not yet, just a promise, and pulled her close. I love you, he said. I love you too. They kissed as the party continued below them, as Milan spread out beautiful and indifferent and theirs to claim. When they broke apart, Ava was smiling through tears. We should go back down, she said. People will wonder where we are. Let them wonder. Marco, 5 more minutes, just us. So they stood at the windows, watching the city, wrapped around each other. 5 minutes stretched to 10, then 15. Nobody came looking. The party went on without them. Eventually, they did go back. Marcus took one look at Ava's face and grinned. What happened? He whispered. Tell you later. You're wearing a ring. Later. The party wound down around midnight. Guests departed with promises to stay in touch, to collaborate, to remember this night. The building emptied slowly until it was just Ava's team and Marco's people, breaking down equipment, cleaning up. Ava stood in the center of the main floor, turning slowly. The space they'd built, the vision made real. It was everything she'd hoped for, and more. You did good, boss, Simone said, appearing beside her. We all did. Yeah, but you led us here. You made us believe it was possible. She paused. I'm proud of you, and I'm glad you didn't die getting kidnapped. Ava laughed. Me too. They locked up around 1 in the morning. Marco drove Ava back to his place. The security detail had eased but was still present. Probably always would be, Ava realized. That was part of the package. She found she didn't mind. In bed later, exhausted and content, Ava traced the scar through Marco's eyebrow. When did you get this? She asked. I was 19, got in a fight defending Luca. Guy had a knife. I had stupidity and adrenaline. You won? Eventually. He caught her hand, kissed her palm. That's when I learned violence doesn't solve problems. It just creates new ones. Is that why you let the police handle Victor? Part of it. The other part was you. Watching you handle him with nothing but quick thinking and a smartwatch, you were braver than I've ever been. I was terrified. Bravery isn't not being scared. It's being scared and doing it anyway. Ava settled against his chest. What happens now? Now we build a life. Finish your other projects, start new ones, figure out this thing we're doing. He paused. Maybe eventually plan a wedding. Eventually. When you're ready. When we're both ready. Deal. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, the future uncertain but theirs to face together. 3 months later, Ava stood on Marco's balcony drinking coffee and reading reviews of the Brera building. They were unanimous in their praise. The project had won 2 design awards already. 3 more building owners had approached her about similar renovations. Carter Design Studio had a waiting list. Marco appeared behind her, arms sliding around her waist. "Morning," he murmured against her neck. "Morning. Have you seen the Architectural Digest piece?" "I have. You're famous." "We're famous. You did the work. I just wrote checks." She turned to face him. "You did more than that. You saw what the building could be. You trusted me to make it real. Best decision I ever made. Well, second best." "What was the first?" "Kissing you back at that gallery." Ava smiled. "You know, Alessandro sent me an email last week." "The ex?" "That's the one. Wanted to reconnect. Said he'd made a mistake." "What did you tell him?" "Nothing. Didn't even open it." She set down her coffee. "I don't have time for people who didn't see my value the first time around." "Good." Marco kissed her. "Because you deserve better than that. You deserve everything." "I don't need everything, just this." They stood on the balcony as morning light spread across Milan. Ava thought about the girl who'd kissed a stranger at a party out of spite and desperation, about all the choices she'd made since then, some smart, some reckless, all leading here, to this man, to this life, to a future built on honesty and risk and the willingness to choose love even when it was complicated. Her phone buzzed. Text from her mother. "Your father and I booked flights. 2 weeks. Can't wait to meet Marco." Ava showed Marco the message. "You ready for this? Meeting your parents?" "Yeah." "Terrified. But I'll survive." He pulled her closer. "We'll survive. Together. Always together." 6 months after that, on a warm day in Naples overlooking the sea, Ava stood in a simple white dress holding a bouquet of wildflowers. Marco stood across from her in a dark suit, his eyes never leaving her face. It was a small ceremony. Just their closest people, Marcus and Simone and Elisa, Antonio, Sophia from the restaurant, Ava's parents who'd flown in despite their initial concerns and immediately fallen in love with Marco's grandmother's kitchen. The officiant asked if they were ready. Marco looked at Ava. "I've been ready since you grabbed me at that gallery." "That's a lie. You looked confused." "I was. Best confusion of my life." They exchanged rings, new ones chosen together, symbols of what they were building. The officiant pronounced them married. Marco kissed her like he meant it, like he always would, like this was just the beginning. The reception was at Sophia's restaurant. Simple food, good wine, people she loved. Ava danced with her father, who told her he was proud of her, with Marcus, who told her he'd always known she'd figure it out. Late in the evening, she found Marco on the restaurant's terrace, looking out at the sea. "You okay?" she asked. "More than okay." He pulled her close. "I was just thinking about Elena, about Luca, about how they'd be happy to see this, to see me happy. I think they would too. And I was thinking about that gallery, about you walking up to me and just going for it, asking for what you needed. I needed to make my ex jealous. You needed to feel powerful, to remind yourself you had choices." He turned to face her. "You gave me that same thing. You reminded me I could choose something other than anger." Ava cupped his face in her hands. "So we saved each other." "In the most chaotic way possible." "Would you change it if you could go back?" Marco thought about it, really thought. "No, every mistake, every complication, every moment of fear, it led here, to you, to us. I wouldn't change a second of it." "Good answer." They stayed on the terrace until the party moved inside, until the stars came out over the water, until it was just them and the future and the certainty that they'd found something worth fighting for. A year later, Ava opened the door to a new building in Rome. Another renovation, another challenge. Marco was there, watching her see the space for the first time. "What do you think?" he asked. She walked through slowly, seeing past the decay to the possibility underneath. I think we can make something incredible here. We usually do. You know what I love about this? About us? What? We keep choosing each other every day, every project, every moment. We could play it safe, but we don't. Marco pulled her close. Where's the fun in safe? Exactly. They stood in the empty building, Milan and Naples and all their past behind them, Rome and the future ahead. Ava thought about that girl at the gallery, desperate and angry and brave enough to take a risk. She'd come a long way. They both had. And the best part? They were just getting started. Because sometimes the worst moment of your life, watching your boyfriend betray you, feeling invisible, making one reckless decision out of spite, leads you exactly where you were meant to be. In Marco's arms, in Milan's heart, in a life built on honesty and trust, and the kind of love that survives kidnapping and death threats and meeting each other's parents. The kind of love worth fighting for. The kind of love that lasts. Ava kissed her husband in their new building, in their new city, in the life they'd chosen together. And when she pulled back, she was smiling. Let's get to work, she said. Always, Marco agreed. And they did.